In today's video, I want to talk about how to write about trauma in a memoir. So this is something that comes up in almost every memoir that I've written, and it's because most people have experienced some form of trauma in their lives. So the question then becomes, how do you write about this effectively? So I just want to apologize in advance. I'm going to be referring to my notes over here on the right as I speak. I don't want to forget anything. This is a very important subject, and it's something that does come up often. So most people have experienced trauma, and the tendency of the storyteller is that they want to go on for paragraphs and paragraphs about, what happened, what this person did to them, how it made them feel, how it impacted their lives. And the thing is, when you lay it on thick like that, it actually detracts from your story. And I really do encourage my storytellers not to do that. When it comes to writing about trauma, subtlety is your friend. You basically just want to write about your life. You want to present yourself in your true, authentic form with all of your good qualities and your bad qualities and all of your struggles and everything you experienced in your life. And when you do that, when you start telling your story and you write it well and you write it in an authentic way, the reader is on your side already. So then when this terrible thing happens to you, you don't need to go on and on about it. They feel it. They do feel it. If they, it's like when you read any story and you're on the character side and something bad happens, you feel it. Okay. So I wanted to give an example that everybody might be familiar with. You might have even heard this before. So for example, with the movie Jaws. In the movie Jaws, we actually barely see the shark. The reason for that is that the director understood that what you could conjure in your imagination is much more gory, shall we say, than anything he could physically depict on the screen. Okay, the same is true for any movie, whether it be a horror movie or just a movie that has something sad or tragic happen in it. You don't go into every intricate detail about what happened. You show maybe the perpetrator's mean, evil face. You see the victim scared. The chainsaw gets fired up. There's a splash of blood on the curb, and the screen fades to black. The reader fills in the rest, and the emotional impact is there. You don't need to go into detail. And if you do, you're going to really turn your reader off. I'm sorry to say, I know that feels very anti-intuitive, but that is actually the truth. Okay. So you don't want to overload your reader. And the next thing I wanted to go into were just a few forms of abuse, the ones that come up most commonly when writing memoirs. So the first one actually is somebody dying. I want to tell you that this is the one that always surprises me, because when people write about somebody dying, they never ask me to go on and on and on about it. They always just tell me what happened, and it's like they experienced this. It was horrible. They came to terms with it, and they want to write the rest of their memoir. I find that interesting because that is not true for other forms of trauma. But the other form of trauma that comes up quite often is narcissistic abuse. So when I say narcissist, I'm really referring in general to cluster Bs like sociopaths and psychopaths. They're all sort of included in that category. So most people who have not experienced narcissistic abuse walk around thinking that, everybody has some good in them, everyone is redeemable, and nobody would, go out and do something just, horrible to you and that profound. They have the image, the understanding in their mind of the Greek myth of Narciso, who fell in love with his own reflection and who is very conceited. That's what they think a narcissist is. Okay. If you've experienced narcissistic abuse, you know that these are predators that go looking for victims and basically take pleasure in destroying their lives. And before they do so, they basically lay the groundwork, telling everyone you're crazy, so that when you try and get help and support from people, they've already been warned that you're going to come to them, and they think that you're insane. So this is an absolute horrible thing to go through, and I completely understand that you want to go out there and write your memoir and clear your name. Unfortunately, people are just, if they haven't experienced this, they're not going to be apt to accept it. They can't. And what I would encourage you to do, I do still think you should write about this because this is going to happen to other people who might read your memoir, and the truth needs to be out there in order for experiencers to relate to this. But don't expect that, by going on and on about this, you're going to change anyone's mind. These people are professional at portraying themselves as, Mr. and Mrs. Nice Guy, the pillar of the community, and you're kind of like a voice in the dark. And unfortunately, I know it is just the cold hard truth. You should speak your truth. You should tell what happened, but don't go on and on about it, and don't expect that you're going to change anyone's mind. You might change someone's mind, but don't expect that by telling your story, and especially by going on ranting about it. Really, you're just confirming what they've said about you. Okay, so that's narcissistic abuse, and I know that that's a really, really hard one. You want to clear your name, but it's just something that you sort of have to take a spiritual perspective and think, well, this came into my life for a reason. What did I gain from it? And hopefully it's something positive. Actually, there's a lot of books out there and a lot of YouTube videos out there that will talk about that. But yeah, it's a horrible experience to go through. But if you can come out successfully on the other side, you'll find that you have been, sort of spiritually and personally transformed in a positive way to have a better understanding of yourself and the world. I really do encourage you to take that perspective. One other thing is that if you are still experiencing trauma, which means, you might not think that you are, but for example, if you're still experiencing memory losses, if you're still feeling depressed, if you're still having these stories, incidents that happen going through your head, having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, you might not be ready to write your memoir. So at least not working with a ghostwriter. It doesn't mean you shouldn't start taking notes and maybe even speaking into a tape recorder, getting your thoughts down so you have something to refer to when you're ready. But really, you should not be starting your memoir when you're still experiencing the trauma. It won't benefit you or anyone because your story isn't over yet. You're not in a place where you can write it yet. You haven't got to the other side. Okay, so yeah, I just want to talk about that. All right, the other one that I wanted to talk about that comes up a lot, and I'm going to use a woman's perspective here because this is something that normally, I haven't written for a man, so just is when you find out that you're married to a sex addict. So if you experience this, you were probably one day just shocked out of this world. You thought that you were married to this loving, dedicated person who was a family man. Sometimes it happens that it turns out that they actually have another family. Or they've just been having these, just nonstop affairs. Many of them are just very torrid. And you can't believe it. It's just the most horrible thing to discover, just such a horrible betrayal. Now, of course, you want to write about that. You want to get it out of your system. You want to enlighten the world, and you want to vindicate yourself. Why do you want to vindicate yourself? Because you know that people are talking about you behind your back, and what they're saying is not nice. Okay, I have been a part of those conversations. You have probably been a part of those conversations before this happened to you, where the victim is blamed. Oh, she probably, wasn't that interested in that side of life or the relationship, or she was working and had the kids, and it was just, it's horrible. It's true. It does happen. I'm sure you've been present, and I've been present when those conversations happen. Okay, we both know that a sex addict would not have chosen somebody who is, asexual or not interested in sex for a partner. They would only choose somebody who is a loving, sensual person, because cheating on somebody who is, not interested in sex would not be any fun. They specifically do target people who, it's the opposite. But Joe Schmo out there doesn't know that. They're going to say things about you, and I get it. You want to vindicate yourself, but people, if you go on and on for paragraphs and pages about this, you're just going to people are you're just gonna confirm their bias. They're gonna say where there's smoke, there's fire. They're not going to believe you. You're far better off just talking about your life, talking about, good relationships that you did have, but you hoped for this relationship, but you believed this relationship was going to be, and then just stating what happened in a very simple, elegant way. Okay. I know that's hard. I just really want to give you the cold hard facts because I had these conversations over and over again, and I really just, felt like I needed to make a video, and hopefully people can listen to this, without without interrupting me because it's pre-recorded, so you can't. All right. The next form of abuse that I have written about is parental alienation. So if you haven't heard about this, this is really a very nefarious form of abuse where during a divorce, one parent basically brainwashes the child into believing and saying that the other parent was abusive or even sexually abusive, and gets them to repeat this in court or to court-appointed psychologist or psychiatrist, and the other parent loses custody completely. And it's a really, really horrible thing to experience. There are no words to express how horrible it is. It does behoove you to write a memoir in that case and to tell your side of the story. However, you really do need to stand in your right to tell it from a positive perspective, not to indemnify the other parent. I know that's so, so hard, but you just have to explain what happened. You have to show who you are as a person. You have to show how much you love your child. And then, hopefully that child will come back to you. But it might not happen right away. It might take time. You're putting this out there, you're doing the right thing, and you're going to have to find a way to write this in a sensitive way. A child who has been gaslit and brainwashed is probably not behaving in a very kind way towards you or anyone. They're probably, that kid in the class that's, constantly being yelled at by the teacher because they're misbehaving. That's what happens. So, that please keep that in mind, that your child is in a psychological state right now, which is not indicative of who they are as a person. Maybe when they get through to the other side and they will one day reach out to you, they'll find this book that you have written, and then you can reconnect. But it's not, you have to keep in mind that when you write a memoir about parental alienation, you are writing to get your child back. You are not writing to vindicate yourself. Okay? We know you didn't do these things. Show what kind of a person you really are instead of trying to, say what person you are not. Right? And just as a PS to that, I do not write anything personal about children. So if you want to include anything like that, and you do that after I have already written the final draft, I can't stop you, but I highly encourage you not to do that. It will defeat your purpose. Okay. All right, so those are pretty much the three. I have not written about sexual abuse, so I can't really speak to that. And I haven't written about physical abuse, so I won't speak to that either. But I really wanted to talk about the kinds of abuse that I have written about, because it is my perspective that you can get through all of these things and you can actually be personally and spiritually enhanced by these experiences. I've seen it, I've experienced it for myself. I know that even if you don't feel like it can happen right now, I would encourage you to try and wait until you get to a place where you can see that and then write your memoir. Okay, to start taking notes, whatever you need to do. And when you're in that place, that's the time. Okay, and that of course does not include parental alienation. I understand the timeliness that you need to do that. But please, trust me when we're going through that. I do understand that you're feeling very emotional. I do have a lot of experience with that particular form of abuse, and we can definitely get through that together. Okay. So I guess that's all I wanted to talk about, just really to reinforce that you just want to state it simply, subtly, possibly poetically. When something terrible happens in a book, the next sentence isn't, and then my heart exploded in my chest and I cried rivers of tears. No, it's like, and it's and then there was a sound of thunder and lightning outside and a storm started or something symbolic. I'm reaching a little bit, but basically, that when you're watching a movie or reading a book, it doesn't, when something terrible happens, the next line is usually a symbolic telling of something in the external environment that reflects how the storyteller felt, not, going on and on and on, explaining how you felt and what it means to you. Okay. I really apologize if those were, some hard, cold truths to hear. And if you decide against me as your ghostwriter, because I'm not going to do that, I understand. But I also would love to work with people that want to write a good, impactful book from a positive perspective. And hopefully I can help you do that. So that's my spiel for today. And yeah, I hope you'll get in touch and I can't wait to hear your story.